Okay. Efficient one.
We good to go?
We're
Bill?
live. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, and it is up on YouTube. And so, is somebody looking at the website just to make sure it is up?
Going there right now.
Right. Thank you.
Yep, just went there. It's up running.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the February 24th meeting of the Webster Grove School District Board of Education. We are back on Zoom this evening because there is inclement weather throughout the district, and with us not wanting to bring people into the schools in this weather, we thought this was a better platform to go and do this. So for the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to do things a little bit differently so that we don't have everybody going and speaking at the same time. I've asked Dr. Simpson to actually lead the pledge. I'd ask all the board members if for the duration of the pledge, if you can just mute yourselves so that as you say the pledge, we are not going and having lots and lots of voices. So Dr. Simpson, if you can lead us in the pledge, please.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. And first, so with regard to the agenda, I have a couple of things that I would like to ask us to consider. I would like us to remove item 2.04. And because we'd like to do the celebration for the teacher in person there. And then I would like to move item 3.07 to 3.01 and renumber. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to do in terms of the agenda? In which case, if I can get a motion to remove item 2.04 and to move 3.07 to 3.01 and renumber accordingly.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
And all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Excellent. So that is appropriately adjusted. Okay. First item then on the agenda, 2.01, celebrations from student advisors.
I don't see Olivia on here yet, and I gave her a pass due to weather and stuff like that in the Zoom. So
okay, all right. Well, that's fine. That's understood. Celebrations from the board. Why do we just? I'm just going to call you out in the order that I see you on my screen. That's probably the easiest thing to do. So, Christine.
Thanks, David. I just wanted to first thank all of our school counselors. They're so appreciative, especially now. And I know February 7th through 11th was school counselor week. So thanks to all of the school counselors in all of our buildings who push into classrooms and bring kiddos in to keep them mentally healthy and well. Also, I noticed that February 22nd was National Bus Drivers Day, and I used to ride the bus an hour every day to get to school, and I really do appreciate bus drivers, and especially in a week like this week and a week like last week where there is ice and snow and dangerous conditions. I just really thank those who keep our kids safe in all different kinds of ways today. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alex.
Yeah, so two things, I guess. First and foremost, celebrating the passing of House Bill 3014. This is hot off the presses, just passed. And for those that don't know what this means, it's ESSER funds, and I wanted to be clear on ESSER, so elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds that were granted to us from federal government, had to pass through our legislature, and unfortunately we were one of the last states to get it passed through, but we did pass it through, and that means $1.9 billion for our school districts in Missouri and roughly $2 million for our school district. So really exciting there. And then the other thing is maybe a life Went to a cosmic ice skating event at the Edgar Road PTO that they held, and it was very well attended. So it's nice to see everybody together, ice skating and having a good time. And it seems like a very
Thank you. And Alan.
Thanks, David. I've got a couple of things I want to mention. First, sort of on a somber note, I wanted to acknowledge the death of Dr. Lee Drake, who was a former high school photography and art teacher. I know he had a large impact on a lot of our students across the district. So just wanted to acknowledge his death and pass along our sympathies to his family and all of those students who he impacted. I think he had quite the impact, and we will certainly miss him. Secondly, I wanted to just acknowledge we had kindergarten enrollment events across the district. I attended the Bristol PTO meeting this week, and there was lots of buzz about the event. They were actually able to do some of it in person, and there was lots of excitement about kindergarten enrollment. So wanted to celebrate all the schools and their doing those things. And finally, just quickly wanted to acknowledge that we have 4 national merit finalists in our district. So want to congratulate those students, Matthew Curtis, Ella Kelly, Benjamin Miller, and Emma Roars, for striving for and achieving that academic excellence that we all hope for our students, and congratulate them on their success.
Thank you. And Keita.
Thank you, David. First, I want to thank the high school and the basketball team for Douglas Night again. It's always awesome to celebrate the all-black school that was in Webster, and to see the team in the old colors wearing the Panther uniforms. That's always awesome. I will reiterate what Alan said about Dr. Drake. Now, Dr. Drake was actually one of my art teachers in high school. So I'll tell you how long he was with the district. I won't tell you when I graduated. Let's just say it was a few years ago. But he started when I was in high school. And yes, he was an excellent teacher. He cared about the students. He was at a lot of the events taking pictures. You would often see him. He was an awesome teacher. And finally, I just want to celebrate the teachers and the administrators. Teachers at various levels either are going through or are about to go through conferences. Those are really, really long nights, long days. We hear you, we see you. And thank you to the administrators for having to pivot every day and deal with something new and something crazy. We hear and see you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Keita. And Joe?
Yeah, so I have a couple things. First, I would say thank you to Dr. Simpson and his staff for, I know it was much appreciated by a lot of families that the snow days we've had got called off at a reasonable time and not 4 o'clock in the morning. Makes planning easier and just makes life easier. And then also to the people that have come in and cleaned up the snow and cleared off to get ready for kids coming back to school. It's a big job. And also a huge congrats to the girls swim team who were at state this week or last week. I'm confused now, but anyway, and had a good showing and had some really outstanding swims. So congrats to all of those.
Thank you. Celebrations from administrators.
Kathy, do you have any before I go?
I have one. School student Rachel Sebastian Asbed has been chosen to have her artwork displayed at the state capitol in Jefferson City beginning in March, representing the high school's Missouri Senate District.
Thank you. And I just want to say again, thank you to the board for acknowledging all the teachers, all the staff, all the employees who are continuing to work hard day in and day out, but then also in moments like snow and ice removal, when people aren't seeing what goes on behind the scenes. But there's a lot of people that are working really hard. I had a number of the different celebrations you had, both academic, artistic, athletic. The only ones that weren't mentioned, I wanted to name Alex Turley for the third straight year. He won a medal at the state wrestling meet this year, finishing third. And then our boys and girls basketball teams both have had great seasons. The boys finished as conference champs. The girls are co-conference champs, and district starts at the end of this week. And both, I believe, are #1 seeds in their district. So it's good. See how far they can go.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And
I have one more. Oh, stop. I'm sorry. We also wanted to acknowledge, and Keita mentioned a few things that, as far as Black History Month, or one thing in particular, Douglas. But we have a lot of different things. One thing, I continue to be proud of our school system and the work that we're doing to not just honor the history of all, in particular Blacks and all kinds of other people through our history and our social studies. It's not just a month, but we do step it up and do some special things in honor of Black History Month. I will send the board a more comprehensive, and we don't want to share everything tonight, but just want to highlight a few. One, in our preschool, they are featuring African-American inventors and offering the blueprints of those inventors and to inspire the children there, the young engineers. Also using black and white photos of people of color from the St. Louis area, learning about their contributions to the community, and then creating artwork inspired by Wiley. Hudson, they have an event called My Story, and I'm not listing all that's going on at just a few of these schools, but they have an event called My Story that's super cool, where they have people that come in and they share with children in all kinds of different ways, whether it's an artist that's coming into the share, a young entrepreneur, a government official, a musician, a barber, it's really special. Now, unfortunately, that event has been postponed twice due to weather. Today was the second go, so it's being pushed back into March, but it's a super neat event. And lastly, again, just representing, I wanted to just mention Givens. They're doing a number of things, such as giving 3 facts of a particular African-American person in the morning, and then classes work throughout the day to determine who is that person. And they also have a special thing they do monthly called Harambe. And this month they invited the Honorable Edward Mahan, Mayor of Rock Hill, to come and read to children and to be a part of their cheers and chants, what they do. And everybody who's ever been around Edward at the Dr. Martin Luther King event, or maybe you sat next to him in church. I have not, but he can sing. So it was fun for him too, to be around our kids. So a lot of neat things that are happening, and I'll give the board a show of what's happening in all our schools.
Thank you, John. Walter Ambrose Family Center projects.
Yes, so good evening to all of you. As you can recall, at our previous meetings, we've been highlighting different staff initiatives or different school initiatives. And tonight, I'm excited that we have our 2 leaders from the Walter Ambrose Family Center with us this evening, Lauren and Julia, and they are going to share a few celebrations from Walter Ambrose Family Center. Lauren and Julia, feel free to unmute, and I will share my screen in just a moment and pull up your presentation.
Great, thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for having us here to share Ambrose celebrations. We're really excited to share a few celebrations from all 3 of our programs, and Julia is going to get us started.
Hi, I'm Julia. Thank you. The first one we want to share is about our Adventure Club program. High school students may volunteer with the Adventure Club to earn A+ or Statesman service hours. The students gain valuable work experience and life skills while ensuring their access to a higher education with A+ and Adventure Club. Adventure Club welcomes student volunteers at each aftercare site.
We had a fall food can drive, and our PTO sponsored this, and we're constantly trying to think about how our families in need, specifically with food insecurities for the food drive, can access the food that's collected. And this year, the PAT, parent educators, and some of our staff who work with Head Start families took pictures of the food and the canned goods and sent a picture and a list of what we collected to those families. And those families let us know what they wanted, and we packaged it up just for confidentiality and respect for their privacy. We also had some families choose to come in. And then we also had a fall clothing drive, and our Head Start and PAT families were able to receive more winter clothing earlier this fall than in the past. We found we used to do this drive too late, and so now families were truly prepared for this winter. And then the next is after the holidays, when COVID numbers were increasing, our parent educators offered winter activity bags, and these were just packaged bags of activities that were developmentally appropriate for the age groups that the parent educators serve. And they had close to, I believe, 60 families sign up for these bags. And that also included a follow-up phone call and a chance to just talk and connect with more families throughout the community. And then our last parent as teachers program celebration is Parks Chapel reached out and selected Webster Grove's Parents as Teachers program to be the recipient of their mission project. Chris Steger went to Parks Chapel, and they gave her, we received toys and diapers, and we set up a store at Ambrose, and families came in and picked out toys for their children. And that's created a really great partnership, and we're excited to see what the future holds with that partnership.
And our last 3 slides are about more about our preschool program. This one is about, in the fall, we had a weeding party in collaboration with the PTO, helped organize. We are lucky at Ambrose to have a huge garden space where the students help plant vegetables and all different kinds of foods. And plants and flowers as well. So in the big vegetable garden tends to get a bit overrun, especially in the late summer when there aren't as many staff and students there to help care for it. So we had several parents and staff, and even Alan Todd, our board member, came and helped to get it going so that we could move forward. Then the next one is then the PTO came, they purchased and helped plant a whole bunch of beautiful flowers and plants in the vegetable garden area. And then next to it is we have a new butterfly bench in memory of Miss T.C. Benson, a former teacher who passed from COVID. So the PTO came, and some students helped plant the flowers, and some parents helped plant the flowers too, to beautify that area. And then our last one is a study that's been happening in one of our 2-year-old classrooms at Ambrose. The Acorn Room has been studying symbols as a gateway to letter formation. The progress of the creations have been a magical collection of data and the stages of writing. They've really been able to see the progress of the students in exploring their writing. They've seen scribbling, circles on circles, the lines, and it's now some are progressing to more of sun people. Some of the children are also dabbling in forming letters in their names. So that's just one example of some of the awesome studies happening in our preschool classrooms.
Thank you again for letting us share tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's great. If I rename my backyard Ambrose something, can the PTO come and do the weeding in my yard as well? Okay.
Thinking the same thing, David. If I throw a weeding party,
Mr. Todd is great at weeding. If you
okay, well, good. Well,
ask nicely, David.
All right, good stuff. No, thank you very much, and it's great just to see everybody out and doing those things. That was great to share. Anybody got any questions?
I don't have a question, but just as the liaison to Ambrose and a former parent, you guys know how much I love that school and that program and our PTO program there. We've got great staff, and Lauren and Julia do a fantastic job as Julia, I was fortunate that Julia taught both of my children when we were there. So thank you both for all of your time and energy you put into our little kids to get them started on the right foundation, because it's really important and you guys do great work. So thank you.
I echo your gratitude for them, being two new leaders, not new to the school, but new to leadership. They've done a lot to, again, continue to help the school and all the different programmings go. And they have very unique jobs where most of our schools, you get a budget, you get what we give you, and maybe you get some grants and stuff like that, but they're running programs that are dependent on, again, desirability, money that comes in. It's a unique administrative role in our school system, and you guys do a great job. So again, thank you.
All right, great stuff. Thank you very much. Okay, and board calendar.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to point out here is that just the board candidate forum again is on March 30th, and people will be able to watch that online. And we have tried to publicize the questions that could be generated and sent to the League of Women Voters in advance. Will also be available to do so that night. And so please feel free to share that information with people. I did want to acknowledge, since we're talking about board again, and I missed it on the celebrations, but David and Keita and Alan and Alex all for doing your certified board member refresher. Thank you for continuing to grow and learn and support your work as board members serving this community. So thank you. Yeah, that's it on the calendar. Okay.
I just draw everybody's attention to the correspondence log, and then which is part of the agenda and part of the record. Initial review of board policies.
Yeah, we have some policies for your review. We had a meeting recently, and we just haven't had the opportunity to add those edit and add the additional policies. So we'll have some more in March for first read, as well as these will be on the agenda at that time for final approval. If you have any questions between now and next time we meet, March 10th, regarding these policies, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of the members of those committees, including Keita, Joe, and who's my Alan? Sorry, you're on this. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, thank you very much. And then so we'll now move on to reports from superintendent and staff. And so we have moved item 3.07, which is COVID-19 mitigation practices. We've moved that to the first item here. Because I suspect that a number of the people, so we've got about 85 people watching, and I suspect most of them, this is the item that's of most interest. So just to try to help everybody. So John.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm going to be coming to you with recommended changes to our plan for your consideration and ultimate approval. I'm sorry here, trying to advance my. In my proposed recommendation, our proposed recommendation is regarding face coverings. And it would be moving to a mask recommended environment on March 2nd, Monday, March 7th. I apologize, Monday, March 7th. So proposed recommendations, what this would look like. And I do want to highlight one thing because I changed it just a tad based on some earlier correspondence. So the first thing will be we would utilize a mask recommended environment in kindergarten through 12th grade schools. Mask recommended will be contingent on the percentage of positive cases in a building. And that is the one thing I changed. In the communication I shared with you earlier, I had listed for K-12 students and staff, but this would be for anybody who's in the school. I'm recommending that we move to a mask recommended environment. I'll speak a little bit more to that in a little bit. That mask recommended environment will remain if the percentage of individuals who test positive using the 7-day cumulative average does not exceed 1.5% of the school's total population of staff and students. I got a chart that'll make it, again, simpler probably. If the percentage exceeds 1.5 in a school, everyone at that school, everybody who enters that school will be required to wear masks for a total of 2 weeks, a total of 14 calendar days. If the percentage happens to exceed the 1.5 on that final day, then the school would remain in a mask setting, a masked environment, mask required for an additional 2 weeks. Okay, so regardless of what the data looks like in between, once that mask required is triggered, once you hit that over 1.5%, you'll stay in there, regardless of if the school drops to 0%, 1.1%, you'll stay there for 2 weeks.
John, can I just interrupt you for a second? Can you explain how are you measuring this?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is we took the total number of students and the total number of staff that are in each of our schools. And we took 1.5% of that total population. So let's say at Clark, the total population there with students and staff, 1.5% of that is 5 students or 5 people. So they can have 5 people and still be in a mask recommended environment. But if at any point 6 total people are at the same time, then they would move to a mask required setting.
And this is 6 total people who have tested positive and haven't finished the appropriate quarantine period.
Correct. Who are positive at the same time. Right.
Okay. And how will you understand if people are positive? This will be something that be self-reported, or this is students who are out of class because they report that they have COVID. How are we actually gathering the positive cases?
It would be all the ways that we do so now. Most of the time it's self-reported at this point. Sometimes it's doctor's notes, but with Omicron and with just people's difficulty getting into doctors, we've allowed people to self-report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
So,
please carry on. Due
to this, the sizable percentage of children at Ambrose not being vaccine eligible, we're still going to be a mask required at that school for the foreseeable future. But we will allow the staff, when they are not in the presence of children, to be in a mask recommended environment. So if they're in a PD session or again, someplace when they're not around children, they would be allowed to do that. Masks will remain mandatory for all K through 12 students on buses. That's federal law. That's everybody. Pre-K 2. That's everybody on a bus has to wear a mask. And then, based on the quarantine practices, if a student or a staff member was to return from isolation, having tested positive and exclusion, after 5 days, they would have to wear their mask for the duration of the period. And due to universal, and this is just one impact I just wanted to put out there, that due to universal masking being a condition of modified quarantine, students and staff who are not vaccinated will be required to quarantine at home for the minimum of the 5 days if deemed a close contact. So if we didn't have multiple transmissions occurring in schools, if there was a positive case in the school, since people were masked along with our other mitigation measures, kids would be able to stay at school. Staff would be able to stay at school, but then they were told that they should be in quarantining when they were outside of the school setting. They weren't allowed to play in athletics. They weren't allowed to do all these things outside the academic setting. With removing the mask requirement, you lose the modified quarantine in that K through 12 setting. So from a data standpoint, this is what it looks like. This is that total student staff population. You could see what 1.5% looks like in each of our schools. And to the right, I put on there what the current cases are in each of those environments. And that's a total of students and staff who are positive. As you can see, compared to where we were in January, when we were having it like Webster Groves High School and the middle school, we were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s positives on a week. We're in a significantly better spot right now. So what we would do then is we look at, and I'll take you again to our page. We have right here the new daily building COVID cases. We update this, we update our data on the next work day. So because we were off school today, we were off work, the data, this daily information right here is from yesterday. So tomorrow when people come in, they will populate what data came in, who tested, what were the positives on Thursday, and then what were the positives on Friday. Okay, they do that for the weekend too. So over this past weekend, our data didn't change for a little bit due to, due to Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. So the next day, that data is generated, it's updated usually by 3 p.m. Every single day. Sandy's office, Rachel Huertas, help with the data entry, as does Sherry, who kind of pushes the final button on making it go live. And this is where that data comes from. So we'll be able to easily monitor when we would need to move to the mask required status. So the rationale, certainly everyone is seeing in communication from St. Louis County Department of Health, the county executive. It's my understanding the CDC released some information today teasing a message that's going to be sent out tomorrow regarding masks. We've been in close consultation with the Department of Public Health and medical pros from the start, and we have not deviated. You know, there's been some things where we've had to interpret guidance or recommendations, but everything that we've done has been endorsed or recommended or reviewed by them. And this is no different. The regional data is obviously trending in a very, 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 very favorable direction, and those experts above believe that it's only going to continue trending in that direction, and that includes case rates, positivity rates, hospital data, as well as vaccine rates. Another important thing, I think we know that the virus is still dangerous to the unvaccinated, largely to the unvaccinated, but the virus is weaker, and so that is also kind of a factor. And then also supporting students and staff. Our students and staff have done a great job. Certainly it will benefit them to have the mask off in a lot of different ways. Some people will cast it like, you know, again, there's individual students who struggle, but again, overall, our kids have just kind of accepted that it is what it is. And they're very caring people, and they care about the well-being of other people. But we do feel like it will be good for the students it's time for them to be able to if they so choose to go without the mask. In terms of our continued efforts, at this point, nothing else is going to change. So we're still going to be looking at our district data. We're still going to be looking at regional data. Our quarantine isolation practices will remain. We will continue to encourage people who are symptomatic to stay home. We'll continue to be mindful of spacing both during the school day as well as outside. And by outside, I mean for any events that we have people come to or allow people to come to. We'll continue to encourage vaccination and boosting. And then currently at this point, we're going to leave our visitors kind of policy in place where we're still really limiting the number of adults that come into the school building. We're saving those visits for IEP meetings, for maybe performances that we can space out at this point, but that would be a next step. If this proposed recommended is approved, it does require your vote. We would send correspondence to staff, students, and families tomorrow. We would share resources with those needing support with the transition. We realize that we've all experienced, and you as a board have certainly experienced, knowing just the challenges of navigating the pandemic, everything that people are taking with them together, but then some of the experiences they've had and with their families, and even with our staff, as Ms. Lauren and Ms. Julia shared tonight about Ms. TC. So what support can we provide for children and families and staff to support them through this transition? The transition would be to mass those schools and district offices that are below that threshold would transition to mass recommended Monday, March 7th. We built in a little bit of time. That wasn't something where the doctors or DPH said, like, you have to wait, or there's a delay, or we want the data, community data, to come down more. But they all thought it wasn't a bad idea to utilize what you know about your community and allow for a little bit of time of transition to that particular environment. So Monday, March 7th is a recommendation. We would, of course, continue to monitor our data. We're doing that on a daily basis, and we have for 2 years the regional data. And now we're looking at our district data on a daily basis. We would continue to monitor the impact of our decision on our children as well as our adults. That'll be important. And we'll continue to consult with DPH and the doctors with whom we've consulted all along. And so with that, I'll open it up to any comments or questions you might have.
Questions? I think just if you've got questions, Keita. I can't see everybody on my end. I'm going to change my screen a bit so I can see if anybody else has got hands up. So if I don't call on you, please just holler.
All right, John, I'm assuming when you say that you're keeping up the other, I guess I'm trying to ask, are we still like cleaning and sanitizing and taking extra steps to just kind of make sure that the buildings are clean and buses and all that, everything else, that all that's going to continue?
Absolutely. Nothing's going to change regarding our sanitation and cleanliness practices. Mm-hmm.
Alex.
Yeah. So one of the questions I have is, and I think it's kind of related. So that you mentioned 2 weeks of mandatory masking after the 1.5%. With quarantine being 5 days, I'm just wanted just a little clarity on the 2 weeks and also maybe that ties into when a student comes back. You said they have to wear a mask for, is it 2 weeks or maybe
it's really 5 days if they come back on day 6, so that the quarantine or the isolation period is still 10 days. But instead of staying at home for the 10 days and then coming back once asymptomatic, they're allowed to come back on day 6 if they're not displaying, if their symptoms are substantially improving, as long as they wear the mask. So that would be the case. The reason for the 14 days is really because we're looking at this kind of this rolling number, and it just allows for kind of just, again, not basing it on a single day, or again, we haven't seen substantial transmissions within our schools. But I think it's a 7-day average. And so it's really not a 7-day average, but it's factoring into this rolling cume. And so just felt that was a number that, was responsible. My recommendation too is, you'll see when you look at other county districts, people are in different spots with what their percent is. Are they looking at students? Or are they looking at students and staff? So I don't know any district that's probably more rigid than us in terms of looking at students and staff combined in the 1.5%. So you'll see, again, the numbers are pretty low. Clark is either now or was like one student away from moving to a mask required. Avery last week, I think sometime would have been mask required. So it's not an exact science, but.
And is it 14 total days? We're not talking 14 school days, right?
Correct. Calendar.
Okay.
Calendar days. Yeah.
Alan.
John, you talked about that 1.5% of the total population for a building to go mask required. Have you thought at all about what it would take for the entire district to go back mask required and what that number is or what those indicators are?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I've thought about it, but we haven't determined a number. We did talk to County Health about that. And, there was no particular recommendation from them either. And I think what we would, again, we've been in consultation with the experts all along. And so if there was the sense that based on what was happening in the community, the example being, if there was a variant that came along that was, again, a lot of people were getting it, it was more dangerous, things like that, then we would have to consider making that decision. So really right now, they've stressed that both DPH as well as the doctors stress, it is important to know, really focusing in on the schools, and then it is important to know, like, when do you go back to mask required? But yeah, nothing on the total district now.
Christine.
Yeah. One thought I had when looking at the website was, I was wondering, those 1.5% numbers that you showed us, would those numbers be on the website? Like, I thought it might be helpful for even if, for example, like it said Clark on that graph, and then if maybe in parentheses after it, it says 5 or 6, I guess it would technically be 6. That you go mask required, that would help parents, I think, as long as it were clear.
Yep, good idea.
So a question I have is, I'm thinking about teachers, and I'm thinking about my coworker who, has a baby at home and is pregnant. My sister who has toddlers at home who can't be vaccinated now until at least April, I think is what they're saying. Will teachers who are in similar situations as this, will they be able to request that students in their classrooms stay masked so they can keep their families safe? Or what can we do for those teachers?
I think what we would, thank you for that. I think we would work with those teachers and work with the buildings and work with their environments to do what we can to, the best that we can to keep them safe. I think that's one thing that we were looking into, if there was a medical need for an environment for somebody to require masks. I don't think it could be something where just somebody asks, but we're exploring kind of that question, Christine, but also don't want to put teachers or students in the spot where the district's saying you don't have to, it's recommended, and the teacher's going outside what our recommendation is. So that's something that we're kind of looking into at this point, and we'll have an answer pretty soon.
Yeah, I would like to hear that answer. I know when I was hearing about the Illinois schools going back, there was I think it was a Bethalto high school student who said we would certainly, if a teacher had a concern or was in a medical situation, or that we would all wear masks in that class willingly. So I just was curious, what that would look like.
I am certain that our students, would do what they can to protect one another, and we as administrators of the district would do what we can to protect folks in compromising situations. we would certainly do our best.
So my other question is about this quarantine, and I thank you for sharing. I mean, I saw this with my coworker whose child goes, whose baby goes to an unmasked center. She was out 20 days in January, and everybody was home. It's going to be hard. And with our sub shortages that we're already seeing, do you feel like we can maintain this as a district? And would that impact potentially what happens?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. Like, I feel right now, based on the data that we're seeing, I feel like we'll be able to manage everything pretty well, just with the case rates being so very low. But if we started trending back to where we were, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, that would be something we would have to rethink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then inside of the classrooms, who's keeping track of who's masked, who's not, who's properly masked, who's not, in terms of those quarantines?
Yeah, that'll be a situation where, we'll have to, so if there's a close contact situation, it'll kind of be like an interview type thing where we have to talk to teachers and talk to students. There will be, with quarantine, there will be opportunities to have some discretion. Like, as we work, we always contact Department of Public Health, and they help walk us through it. If we have situations where certain things are in place and children are masked, that will be more favorable to children being able to stay at school than to go home. But those will all kind of be discretionary type things. Rachel Huertas and I have talked about that a little bit. We have, and now again, it's not in classrooms, so to speak, but with all the cameras that we have in our schools, we have we can see pretty well children or adults who are wearing their masks with fidelity, at least in hallways. Usually if they're not wearing them with fidelity in a classroom, they're definitely not wearing them with fidelity in a hallway. So we'll also be able to utilize tech to check into that. But again, we'll see, Christine. Again, if case rates were to go up and there was a lot of contact tracing, that puts a burden on our nurses and the people who are doing all that contact tracing. So something we have to monitor.
Yeah, I understand that. And my final question is, what options do our families have if they have an immunocompromised student or somebody in their household who is immunocompromised? Essentially, what will we do? What options are there for those families who, not because of fear, but because of a real risk, are going to feel unsafe in that classroom?
Absolutely. I would reach out to the school, reach out to the counselors. We could see what, is there something that we could do for in that environment to support them? MOCAP is an option for everybody. If they're just not going to be, if their doctor says the school environment is not something, we would look to get the medical guidance. But I'd like to think that we could work with some of those families to structure things in that environment in such a way that they feel good about.
I have one last question, which kind of piggybacks pretty much on everything Christine was asking, and you sort of answered it, but I just kind of wanted to be specific. Has there been any thought, plan, preparation for the return from spring break? Because there will be lots of gatherings and such, and that's kind of what happened last time was the holidays and no masks and numbers went up. So is there any thought to that?
There was thought, and we did consult with people on that, and they didn't feel like at this point with where things were, that was essential. I had given some thought to delaying this until a week or two after spring break for that exact reason. But after speaking with people, I didn't feel like that was something that we would need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, so can you explain to me, I'm still a little confused. I mean, if this is where we're supposed to be, March 7th seems like quite a long time to wait to actually go and put this in place. Can you sort of talk me through that one, please?
Again, it was just thinking through board meeting tonight, communication tomorrow, and just giving people some time to have conversations with their children about the changes, provide them with resources. It is lengthy, and so if the board felt that it should be moved up to a different time, would certainly be open to that. So there's no magic. When I asked the doctors about that, they said, obviously you could do it tomorrow if you want, but we encourage people to look at your community and what would be most, what are they ready for, and what amount of time or transition would be most appropriate. And that was where ultimately landed.
Okay, Keith, did I see you?
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay, all right, Joe.
I was just wondering, so this doesn't change the lunch setup or the way they're sitting in class, doesn't change any of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I would say, as far as the timing, it's really only a week. And so for kids like Christine was saying, if you happen to have a child that's immunocompromised or for whatever reason you're not comfortable, I feel like it's fair to give them a week to figure out to process and figure out what they want to do. So I think the timing of that is good personally.
I agree. I was actually all I was going to say. It's really only a week away. I mean, it sounds, but remember February is a short month and the end of February is next week. And this would be the week after that. So yeah, I agree with Joe.
Week from Monday.
Okay, other thoughts, other questions? Okay, and so what I would recommend, and so I was going to talk about sort of future board meetings, and so it strikes me that what we should do is for any of the K through high school, if we should basically adopt the same as the most restrictive practices that any of our schools has. I mean, basically the reason we've gone, or at least one of the reasons we've been requiring masks at board meetings up until now, it's to be consistent with what we've been doing in the schools. And so I would suggest that whatever policy we adopt now, we do the same for board meetings. So if the entire district is or K through 12 is mask recommended, then I'd suggest that we adopt that for board meetings. But if any of our schools is mask required, then we'd require masks for board meetings as well. Any thoughts about that?
I think that would be a good policy, David, and knowing that we invite community members from all of our schools, I think that is a wise decision. If we are mask recommended, that we are mask recommended in the board meetings. And then if there is any school which is essentially masked, then we would be masked at the board.
I agree. But I think we have to figure out a way to communicate that so people know when they're coming, whether or not they need to be masked prior to the meeting.
We do usually have masks at the front though, do we not? As long as we have some.
We do.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe put it somewhere on the board doc or something. If someone
Right.
looks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think do you have wording for a motion you'd like us to pass, John, or is it sufficient that if the board is in agreement with what you are recommending, that we just do that?
I put just motion to approve the recommended changes to our mass practices as presented.
Okay. And so is everybody is everybody happy? Do we have any further questions about any aspect of that? Okay, if not, what I'd request that you do, so I guess it's in two parts. So first, if I can request that we add what we've just all discussed in terms of board meetings to that, so that board meetings would adopt practices similar to the most restrictive for any of the K through 12 high schools. So if everybody's in agreement with that, I'd make a motion that we add that to the recommendation.
Second.
I apologize, David. Could you say that again?
Okay, so that future board meetings would be conducted consistent with the most restrictive requirements of any of the K through 12 schools. Okay, Christine? Okay, so can I have somebody to, we can have a proposal. Okay, I need somebody to actually propose it first.
You proposed it. You made the motion.
All right, okay, that's fine. Typically, I don't. Typically, somebody else will move what I've asked for, but still. All right, so we have a proposal and a second to, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? And then with that in mind, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation as amended.
So moved.
And a second.
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 Keita got there first. All right, good stuff. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. So, so Dr. Simpson, if you can communicate that to everybody, and as of March the 7th, we hope that everybody will be able to move to mask recommended. And obviously you'll come back and you'll continue to come back to board meetings and tell us how things are going. I think even if all the schools stay mask recommended, I think it would still be good to have you come back and just update us on what's going on, as well as on any additional findings that there are. I don't think that this move is negates the need for us to be, the board to be cognizant of everything that's going on.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good stuff. Thank you very much. So now, as we're moving into the renumbered, renaming of Webster Groves High School baseball field.
Yeah, so tonight we have Mr. Terry Verstraete, who is here to share a proposal for the renaming of the baseball field. And Terry's been a teacher at Webster Groves High School for a number of years, and he has led with others at times our military history celebration, which is, if not the best in the region, certainly one of the best. And so very excited to hear Terry's proposal coming from others. So Terry, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. Thank you for everyone inviting me. I really appreciate it. And before I get started, I actually want to thank Alan and Keita. That meant a lot what you said about Lee Drake. I've been here for 28 years. Lee Drake was one of my oldest and closest friends. We just saw each other 2 months ago for dinner. What you've said just means a lot. And I will pass that along to Janice Finley, Drake, his wife. He taught me a lot of things. He taught me about, being consistent and holding people to high standards. And it's not just about grades. It's also about thinking and problem solving. And he taught me what tough love was. And quite frankly, he also taught me what an American hero is. He was drafted in '69 and he served his country. He was in Vietnam. His brother was actually wounded. He was a Marine Corps soldier, and he came home, and Lee went over there, and he was a combat vet. So I cannot thank you enough for acknowledging him. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. As far as the military is concerned, I am here to talk about changing and moving the name to Copland Field. with the baseball field. And I thought I'd better give you just a little bit background. Now, I don't have the fancy presentations that you guys had. That's very impressive, by the way. I would have had one picture, but I think my words hopefully will do enough to help you understand. So just a little bio real quick. So Richard Copland, he was born in 1898 and he graduated in 1918. And he died on July 15th, 1918, during the latter days of World War I in the southern part of France. It was actually in the middle of the French Alps, and he was one of 50 casualties on that particular day. On July 15th, 1918, Richard Copland earned the unfortunate distinction of becoming the first KIA from the Webster Grove School District. And as a result, in 1918, his class actually raised money for a marker to be built in the honor of his memory. That marker actually still sits on the corner of Plymouth and the teacher's parking lot. Not only did they raise money for the marker, but they also petitioned to have the local football field renamed after him. And thus it became Copland Field. The field, as you know, was later moved over to Hickson and became known as Moss Field. The football field may have been moved years ago, but I would like to ask on behalf of a grateful community that the baseball field be given the same name as the original football field. We would name it Copland Field. In doing so, we would ensure that the wishes from the class of 1918 carry on. I believe that their main wish was to ensure that Richard Copland's legacy of sacrifice above and beyond the call of duty never be forgotten. And I think it's a wish and a legacy that began over 104 years ago, and I think we can carry it forward from here on out. Thank you for your time and consideration. That's it. Are there questions that I can answer in regards to this? Yeah.
Christine.
Two questions. One, I was reading in our board report that he graduated in 2017 and then 3 months later was killed in July. Is that correct, or was that maybe a typo?
No, so it was probably a typo. So
Okay.
World War I, graduated in 1918, and then he was killed just a couple months after. And I appreciate you calling that to the attention. But yeah, World War I, and in World War I, the mindset was trench warfare. But he was the farthest away from the trenches. He was actually literally in a mountain village, beautiful apparently from what I've seen, and unfortunately he was killed. I hope that clears that up. I apologize.
It does. Thank you. And do we know if there are still members of his family in our community or not?
No, there are no members in this community. I definitely did my best in terms of due diligence to find as much information as I could. I've actually been in contact with Pat Voss. She's the former alumni director. I've actually gone into the archives at the high school. They actually did an entire page about him in the 1918 yearbook. But according to Pat Voss, there is no record of any more Coplands living in the community or the area.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. In which case I will entertain a motion to name the field as requested.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Mr. Firstrate, thank you very much. That board.
That was quick. This is how you guys operate. I love it. All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you again on behalf of Webster Groves. And I think this is a great thing. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Verstrate.
Thank you very much. Okay. Strategic planning update.
Jason's going to
Simpson,
share.
Dr. Adams.
Sure. So good evening again, everyone. Just quickly wanted to update you about where we are in regards to our strategic planning process. So since the last meeting that we've had, we met again in our small group, and that small work group has been looking at our purpose, our principles, and our profile. We feel really good about where we are with our purpose and our principles, and so we have kind of set that to the side and are hitting pause on that. Our focus has now shifted really to our profile of a graduate, and we collected some great feedback from our small group and are in the process of putting a draft together of that. Our next step will then be to bring it in some form back to the whole strategic planning group with our purpose, our principles, and our profile so that we can see what it looks like all together. with the idea that we would then be bringing it in either March or April to the board for your consideration. So again, just quickly wanted to update you on where we are with that work.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody got any questions? Okay, all right, good stuff. Look forward to the next update, but thank you for keeping everybody informed. Revised 22-23 calendar. Doctors Wiley Skinner and Adams.
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, just wanted to come back to you briefly. As you all know, we typically approve the school district calendar 2 years in advance. So technically you saw this calendar in 2020, and then you saw it earlier this year when we changed the actual format of it to kind of be more representative of what the calendar committee would like. In an effort to continue to show that we are mindful of our staff after a staff survey, talking with the issues and the calendar committee, we have determined to consider looking at the calendar again for this upcoming year and to include primarily 16 late start days. What we were hearing from staff in the calendar committee, as well as other committees, and again, survey data, is our work with regard to CLTs and PLCs is extremely important to our children and how they are functioning, and how teachers have the opportunity to support each other. When those CLTs or PLCs occur during the school day, it kind of limits the ability for a number of staff to be able to be present there, in addition to the specialists really not having a good time to get together and talk, even across districts, across levels, to make sure that there's a continuity of instruction. So the calendar committee took a look at it again. And so what you'll notice on the calendar and board docs, you'll notice circles around every second and fourth Monday, except for the month of December, and then again in the month of May. And so that will total 16 days, totaling about an hour and 15 minutes each Monday that's circled. So kiddos would or could come on time, or they can arrive a little bit later on those days, so that staff can have the opportunity to participate in COTs and PLCs throughout the district. All buildings K through 12 participating at the same time, so that there's hopefully can create a little bit more consistency for parents who may have children at different levels. So this presentation really is twofold. I kind of dipped a little bit into Jason's presentation, but just wanted to kind of give you background as to why we're kind of presenting this again, in hopes for your approval and consent. I'll turn it over to Jason now, who will talk more about the plan and process of what it will actually look like with regard to instruction and the planning for teachers.
Thank you, Sandy. And you did a great job. Great intro. So as we think about this potential change for next year, I put together a few slides to just walk the board through a little bit more about what this would look like on the part of staff and what this could look like as far as support for families. And so as Sandy mentioned, the purpose of these late start days would be as an opportunity for teachers across the district to come together in their teams, at the grade level teams at the elementary school, departments at the middle school and high school, to spend more time looking at data and analyzing that data, monitoring student learning, and then continuing to explore best practices related to what that data says. At the same time, it would also free up more time so that we are able to honor individual plan time throughout the week whenever those late start days occur, which is really how this conversation unfolded. Here's just a sample schedule of what these times would look like. So for example, let's focus on K-5. So we know that our school start time for K-5 right now is at 7:50. With the late start, we would begin for K-5 schools at 9:05. However, what we would do is provide a needs-based student supervision option for families who didn't have another choice, didn't have another option, so that students could still arrive at that traditional arrival time, and they would have support up until 9:05 when the school day would officially begin. We would do something similar at Hickson and also something similar at the high school. In addition to that, I mentioned the needs-based student supervision. So it would be building-based. So it would happen at each building. It wouldn't be a district-wide experience, but it would happen at each of our elementary schools, again at Hickson and at the high school. It would be open to all of our students who would need access at no cost. We would use our existing staff, our instructional aides and everyday subs who are already in our buildings at that time to provide supervision for our students who would need to participate in this program. Registration would occur through Tyler Sys, similar to what we've done with our enrollment process this year and also enrollment for summer school. So the message would go directly to families and then they could opt in to participate in this student supervision experience for the entire school year. And that opportunity would present itself later in the spring for families to sign up for that. As far as transportation goes, we already have late starts at the high school. And so the idea would just be to expand that late start model to Hickson and also to our elementary schools. As far as our local transportation, so our Webster Groves transportation, it would continue to, it would not operate early in the morning, but it would shift to a late start schedule. We are currently in the process of working with the VIC office and VIC administrators to think through what is the best option for our VIC families, our families who participate in the VIC program. However, what we currently do related to the high school is that transportation stays the same as it normally is on a regular schedule. And so we would offer the same option for our VIC families on these late start days. As far as breakfast would go, we would expand to 2 shifts. So students who would be arriving earlier in the morning for the student supervision time, they would have the option of breakfast, but then students who would be coming at the late start time, they would also have another option for breakfast. So everyone would have breakfast, an option for breakfast when arriving. And then any questions?
Christine.
I'll let Alan go first.
Oh, I was just wondering, I don't know if Dr. Adams or Dr. Wiley-Skin or one of you, I know we've had a lot of conversation, right, about the struggles we've had with the state mandated start, earliest days we can start and, trying to end before Memorial Day and those sorts of things. So I'm just wondering what this did to, like where the time's coming from, I guess. It looks like it adds up to probably about 2 days. Is that coming out of like going a couple of days longer or cutting back on snow days, or sort of where is that time coming from?
Yeah, excellent question. Thanks for asking that. So the total of 16 days will wind up being about 3.11 days total that are coming off in essence from this year into this upcoming school year. If you remember when we had that state mandate and we had to move the start time back, we also during that time added 30 minutes of instructional time to each day. And so that has helped us provide a buffer in there so that we don't have to worry about, as of now, going beyond Memorial Day. The beauty of the new mandate from the state as well is that it's not number of days, it's more a number of hours that you spend for instruction. So we still have a really good cushion there for the number of instructional days that we need outside of the required number of days per DESE's recommendation. And that's primarily because we added those additional minutes to each school day. What was that, maybe 2 years ago now. So that has really helped provide that buffer in there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Christine?
Mm-hmm. So I have a question and then a comment. First, how will you assess whether these are working in the ways that you intend them to be working or not? And what would that look like?
Great question. So part of this work will also be partnered with professional development. One of our professional development goals for next school year will really focus on the PLC, the CLT process, and this collaborative data analysis. And so this work has happened in the past. However, we have a lot of new administrators, a lot of new teachers, and obviously the last few years, our focus has been on other things. And so kind of a 2.0 related to our CLT work. So as part of that work, each building will identify where they're at in the process, and that will drive their professional learning goals. Through that, we will also be focusing, I've been doing observations, working with principals related to this process. So there's the process component about whether or not that'll be successful. Also looking at feedback from our staff, from our principals, from our teachers about how is this helpful? How are you improving your practice based on that? And then of course, looking at our student assessment data to see not just math testing, but looking at our benchmarking data, et cetera, to see if there are correlations between this additional collaboration time and our student achievement data. So several different ways that we would be looking at whether or not this would be a success.
And to piggyback, I'm sorry, and to piggyback on that, since Christine, you know, in calendar, this was something that was mentioned. It'll be my goal when we begin meeting next year as a part of our dialogue for them to get feedback anecdotally, right, from the staff to see how's it going, how did it feel for us to consider, 23, 24 and beyond.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to mention just to my other board members, that I have sat in the calendar meetings, and these are things that we hear from teachers and from building leaders that they wanted this time. And so I just really appreciated it. And then two, that you are thinking about still, what do we do for those families who do need to have those kids in consistently at that hour, and to provide breakfast for them at both times too. I just really appreciate the work that you've done on this. Thank you.
Alex.
Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Sorry,
yeah, I was honestly just going to echo what Christine said, and sitting in the issues committee, this has come up as well. It's just I feel like, especially in these past 2 years, a lot has been added to the plate with not much coming off. So hopefully, I'm eager to see how this works too. I think it was a great question on how we're going to see if it's working. But man, I really hope it does, because I agree. It seems to continuously come up in the issues committee. And I agree that not only does this hopefully seem like a solution for our educators, but also keeping our students and their families in mind too is what we need to do. So thank you.
And Joe?
So am I understanding correctly that if I have a student that I need to go at the regular time and they use the bus, they will not have that as an option? Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. So the buses, local transportation, would shift to the late start time.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Okay, all right. And so what do you need from us? Sorry.
I believe we need a motion to approve the revised
Oh, right.
calendar.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised 22-23 school calendar as presented.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you
those
all.
all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? And any abstentions? So that passes. Thank you very much. Okay, summer school update. Ms. Clark-Scott.
Good evening, everyone. I am here this evening to share some information with you about summer school programming for this summer school programming for the elementary students in K through 5th grade will be at Bristol Elementary. It's going to be problem-based learning, focusing on reading, writing, and math. And it's going to be in person, and it will begin June 6th through July 8th. Celebrate Reading will also begin at the same time frame for students in 1st through 6th grade. And that's going to begin in the afternoon. Students will have lunch and recess, and then Celebrate Reading will happen in the afternoon. Students who participate in the Celebrate Reading program will also be enrolled in the C program. And currently we have approximately 366 students who are registered for summer school already. So if there are any parents who are listening who wish to register for summer school and have not, all they have to do is log into the parent portal, and there's a link there in the parent portal for parents to express their interest in students enrolling in summer school. In addition to Celebrate Reading, students who need additional reading support and are not enrolled in the Celebrate Reading program, they will be encouraged to enroll in Freedom School. We will have Freedom School this year, and it will also run during that same time period. Summer school for middle school students will be at Hickson this year, and it will also be in person, same time frame, June 6th through July 8th. The courses for middle school students will be to support learning gaps as well as enrichment courses. And registration for Hickson for middle school students will begin on March 1st. Summer school for high school students will be the same exact time frame. It will be at the high school. They will have 2 sessions per day. They will have a virtual option and an in-person option. And the courses will be for credit recovery and for some elective courses. Experiential learning will also be June 1st through early August, and that's primarily internships and hands-on experiences. Those are for students who are participating in the program at the Chelsea Center. Extended school year through special school district will be from June 6th through June 30th, and those will be for students who are eligible through their IEP for extended learning, and that will be for 1st through 5th grade at Bristol, and then for 6th through 12th grade students will be at the high school. And that's it, if you have any questions.
So how will masking work for these programs?
I am going to assume that we will have the same, well, unless something changes, we'll be using the same protocols that we're using right now.
So you'll look for each location and you'll calculate your ratios based on the number of people enrolled at those programs. Is that what you have in mind there then?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Simpson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Enrolled plus staff. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Thank you very much. I'm concerned that 1% or 1.5% of those is going to be one student or one member of staff.
Well, I will tell you that last year, summer school had approximately 400 students, and right now we have 366 who have registered. So we're thinking that we're probably going to have the same amount of students, and that's pretty comparable to some of the enrollment numbers at the other elementary schools right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking, is that in total or is that just at a single location though?
That's just a single location. That's elementary only.
Okay.
So
oh, all right. Okay.
All of the elementary school students go to one school.
One school.
Right. No, I understood that. No, it was okay. There's a lot more doing that than I had appreciated. Thank you. I knew how the high school worked. My children did extra credit, so it enabled them to be able to do band all 4 years, and so they had to go and get their other classes in the summer to let them do that. But I wasn't familiar with the other parts of that. So,
David,
all right,
David. I just wanted to add too that we're optimistic based on my conversations with people that that 1.5% threshold won't be something. I'm optimistic that by summertime we won't be at that threshold. I don't know what we'll be at, but we'll respond to what the need is. So
okay, well, good. Yeah, so that's excellent. Yeah, so you just keep us informed with what's going on. That'd be great. Other questions? Christy.
Sorry. Yes, I'm glad that many students are already enrolled. I'm not sure if my own is. Dr. Scott, could you mention again, where do we find that registration?
You log into the parent portal, and as soon as you log into the parent portal, there's going to be a link that says registration for summer school. And you can always email me. If you want to just shoot me a quick email, tell me who your student is and what school they attend, I can take care of it for you. And that's anyone else who needs me to take care of it.
Super, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Tina, is it fair to say that elementary schools registration has opened, but Hickson and the high school will open on, I believe, March 1st?
Yes, Hickson and the high school will open on March 1st. Elementary will stay open until March 17th.
Thank you. That explains why we haven't seen it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments?
I just wanted to ask, so my kids are registered for C already at the elementary level, and will Adventure Club still be available for students for aftercare for?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
you should have received information on registering for that as well, but yes.
Yes, yeah.
I had one
Good.
quick question. You said you were
Go
going
ahead.
to be working with the Freedom School.
Yes.
Is that, can you explain what the Freedom School is?
Sure. So I'm happy to jump in, Tina.
Thank you.
So Freedom School started with Webster Groves, I believe, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. The past few years, they haven't been able to operate due to COVID. However, Freedom Schools is a partnership through Deaconess, the Deaconess Foundation, and it focuses on, we have a limit of how many students we can qualify. So it focuses on 50 elementary age students. And the idea is that it provides additional learning support for students from a low socioeconomic background. And so students who benefit from a free or reduced price lunch, who also have literacy needs, academic needs, qualify. We've worked with all of our buildings to identify those particular students, and families will be receiving invitations for those programs next week during parent-teacher conferences, along with the Celebrate Reading program. So we made sure that any student K-5 who needs additional literacy support based on our assessments and based on teacher recommendations, they're either getting an invitation to Celebrate Reading or they're getting an invitation to Freedom Schools. Freedom Schools is also a 7-week program, and it's a full day program. So as an added benefit for families who may need that additional support.
Okay, that was kind of really trying to clarify the difference between Celebrate Reading and the Freedom School. So they'll either get one or the other.
Yes, because they're happening simultaneously. So Celebrate Reading is a 2-hour program in the afternoon after our C program, and it focuses entirely on reading development. Freedom Schools, the morning of the program, focuses on literacy and some other academic components, but then the afternoon is more of an enrichment experience. And so they do different trips. They have different crafts, different art activities, et cetera, in the afternoon. So it's a full day experience. But again, that program is needs-based, and students have to qualify for that particular program.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Other questions? Okay, I don't think there's not a motion or anything here, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. Hudson Playground Project.
Yes, thank you.
Fraser, thank you.
In your packet, you have a document called the Hudson Elementary School Playground Project Request to the Board of Education. And that is from the Hudson PTO parents. And I just kind of summarized that document in this presentation. And with us this evening, we have Allison Artsma, and she has joined us in case you have any questions. The PTO group at Hudson has done an outstanding job working on trying to find a way to fund a new playground for their school. So just to go over that a little bit. So the playground there is over 20 years old. It is in disrepair and it lacks adequate accessibility. So the Hudson PTO decided, not decoded, to pursue the municipal park grant. In 2000, St. Louis County approved a sales tax to help improve, restore, and expand municipal parks and recreation programs. It has awarded over $71 million to various municipalities, and awards are based on the size of the municipality and then factors such as need, planning, and community input. So the Hudson PTO started working with the City of Rock Hill on the grant process, and the City of Rock Hill has been a great help to them and to the district in this process. The playground is a community-wide resource, so the City of Rock Hill agreed to be a partner in the project and the grant application. The Hudson PTO then approached the City of Orson Woods to also be a partner to strengthen that grant application. As part of that, one of the grant requirements was that the Hudson PTO had to raise at least $15,750 towards the $370,000 project budget. To date, they have raised $18,210 with a goal of $20,100. So the Hudson PTO, along with the cities of Rock Hill and Warson Woods, are also seeking a planning grant. That is another thing that will also strengthen the playground grant. And so the PTO is going to contribute $1,600 in matching funds for that grant. So their request to the Board of Education is to enter into an agreement with the city of Rock Hill that is in your packet. That agreement states that the playground will need to remain open to the public when it's not in use by the school or the district, which is something that we already do. The district will be responsible for maintaining the playground. The district will continue to provide insurance for the playground. The grant will be submitted in August of this year. If it's not awarded, it will be submitted again in 2023. And then if it's not awarded, it will be reevaluated by the cities in the district to determine if it needs to be submitted again. So the ask tonight is for the school board to approve that agreement with the city of Rock Hill. And Allison, I don't know, did you have any other comments that you wanted to add?
We just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to be a part of the board meeting tonight and for you all to hear about this project. It's a project that kind of got started in conception before COVID. The kids were all very excited about it at Hudson. They see their friends that can't access the playground or can make it to the playground as it is far from the building, but can't engage and play once they're there. It's wood chipped, it is old, it is decaying. One of our sites is currently closed right now, waiting on some repairs. And so we understand that as a parent community, that there's a lot of priorities with the school district. And we had some parents come up with this creative idea of reaching into this grant and working with our municipalities. And everyone's been great to work with so far. The kids are excited. And I think that the money that we've been able to fundraise this year, the dollars that we've been able to get shows how much not just the Hudson community and the families, but the communities of Rock Hill and Warson Woods support and believe in this project. And so that's all. We just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And Alison, can you just introduce yourself and tell everybody sort of who you are, please?
Sure, of course. I'm Allison Artsma. I have a kindergartner and a third grader at Hudson Elementary School, and I live just around the corner from the school.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I guess as it relates to the project as well, you probably want to know, I am a former member of the PTO board, and this year I had stepped down from the board and stepped in as the co-chair of this committee to help get it back after COVID.
Well, we appreciate your service both on the PTO and chairing the committee to do this. Pam, I wonder if I could get you to put that prior slide back up again, just whilst, and then, there we go. Yeah, that one there just sort of says what's being requested. Just whilst, I'll just see if board members have any questions or comments.
I have a quick question.
Please go ahead.
I think I want to know. I think I know the answer to, but I just want to be clear. The cities of Rock Hill and Warson Woods are in it because they are municipalities, and the grant is a municipal grant. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. It's a municipality grant, so only the municipalities can apply for it. And then our students at Hudson are in the municipalities of Rock Hill and Warson Woods.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have a question, but I just want to applaud you for your efforts. I mean, that's really awesome that you've raised so much money, come up with a great plan to get a new playground for Hudson. So I hope that the grant is successful.
Thank you. So do we. We're overwhelmed with the support that we've gotten from the community. It's been wonderful.
That's awesome.
And I know that the Rock Hill Days Festival is held there often as well after the little parade. So I would see where they would have a vested interest
yes.
in that.
I wanted to echo what Joe said. Just congratulations, and I just fingers crossed that it is submitted and awarded.
Thank you. I will share all of these with the committee and the school and the PTO.
Yeah, I want to do the same thing, Christine and David. I know how much work and effort goes into raising this money by PTOs. So thank you guys all for all your hard work and efforts and what you're doing for your school, because it's going to be, fingers crossed, it gets awarded and it's going to be fantastic when it's done. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Please thank the children too for thinking of their peers and getting this going. I think that's awesome of the
Absolutely,
students.
yes.
And I guess the only thing I'll add is there's obviously a lot of strategy behind this, and the folks on the committee, including yourself, I'll say once this grant is issued, feel free to reach out and look into committees in the district, because we could use this intuitiveness for sure.
Will do. I will share that. Thank you.
Yes. Once you get involved, they're never going to let you out. That's kind of the way it works. It's a bit like The Godfather. All right. On that inappropriate note, I will note that our attorney, Mr. Copeland, has reviewed the agreement and finds it to be in good standing. So I will entertain a recommendation to approve the playground agreement with the City of Rock Hill.
So moved.
Thank you, Alan. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Keita. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, approval of bond council. Ms. Fraser.
Yes, so in preparation for the possible bond issue in August and any upcoming bond refundings the district may do, we issued an RFP for bond counsel services. The services will be for up to a 5-year period. We had 2 responses to the RFP, one from Thompson and Coburn, who has been the district's bond counsel for several years, and then one from Gilmore and Bell. Both of these companies have extensive experience in Missouri. I have worked with both of the companies. They're both very knowledgeable and reputable. We reviewed these results with the Finance Committee. The Finance Advisory Committee also agrees with the recommendation that Thompson and Coburn should continue as the district's bond counsel. As you can see in the memo there, their price per issue is.
I don't see the memo. Oh, yeah, I guess the memo's that. I'm sorry.
In the packet. Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, I thought you might have something you could put on the screen for it.
Yeah.
But, all right.
And then the Gilmore and Bell came in at $22,500. So Thompson and Coburn's price was $17,000 and Gilmore and Bell is $22,500. So the recommendation is to approve Thompson and Coburn LLC as the district's bond counsel for the next 5-year period.
So could I request, can somebody just put a copy of that just so that people who are watching can see? Can somebody put a copy of the memo of the figures that Ms. Fraser just talked about up on the screen?
Pam,
I know the board have been able to. Sorry?
The Hudson play. I was telling Pam she still has the Hudson playground.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, my window is doing weird things.
I'd be happy to share my board doc if you want to. It'll stop your screen sharing. Pam, is that okay?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, there we go. I just, as I say, I just think, and if, yeah, I just think it's important that people have a chance just to sort of go and see that. We'll just leave that up for a second. Any questions from board members? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I would. I again applaud your work. Thank you very much for going out checking. We appreciate both of the firms that answered the RFP. Yeah, as you note, this Finance Advisory Committee did review this at the last meeting that I attended. If we've got no questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve Thompson Colburn LLP as the district's bond counsel for a 5-year period beginning March of 2022.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. Thank you very much. We moved 3.07. We've dealt with that already. So public comment. I will obviously we're on Zoom. It's not. We haven't set up a facility to have public comments in person for the Zoom meetings, but that's why we have the written public comments. And I will note that I've seen a number of those coming through today, and many of them related obviously to the masking question that we dealt with earlier in the meeting, as well as other items. Appreciate everybody writing in, and please be assured that your public comments are read by the board members. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We've heard enough of my voice. If somebody wants to make a motion regarding that.
Absolutely. So I will absolutely. I'll make a motion. Come on.
I know absolutely you're sick of the sound of my voice, Alex.
Yeah. No. So I will motion to approve consent agenda items 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, 5.05, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.09, 5.10, and 5.11.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so that passes. Thank you very much. And I will entertain a motion to recess into executive session for purpose of discussing personnel and property.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
And can I have a roll call vote for the motion, please?
Mr. Addison?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Khan? Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Ms. Quinn?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Okay, and